The stakes have never been higher. The competition has never been stronger. 42 drivers, 25 rounds. One will be crowned champion. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart. Tune in Wednesday nights on the iRacing eSports Network to watch the cars and stars of Lionheart, the Lionheart IndyCar Series presented by First Medical Equipment.
This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing.
Many of the tracks we've seen in the PRL aren't terribly uncommon to show up on a schedule. Today's race, though, returns to a circuit that has seen sports car racing, but not in many years. Homestead-Miami is no stranger to the thunder of tin tops, except usually it's stock cars and on the oval. Instead, it'll be the scream and echo of GTE cars winding through the tight infield road course. Is this unusual choice the chance everyone needs to end Modof's winning streak? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 3 of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing eSports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Nick Schmeg. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Nick, Rovals usually aren't typically well loved by road racers, but I have to admit, this one I enjoy a lot.
And you know, it does seem like rovals are a growing trend in motorsports here in America. And we think of the big ones, Daytona, Indianapolis, and maybe it's time to throw Charlotte in there too. But here, the track normally known for hosting NASCAR's championship weekend could be added to a list of great rovals in the States as well. Tonight we're running the B course, which is actually the one more commonly used in the real world by sanctioning bodies such as the Trans Am Series. The biggest difference is the addition of NASCAR turns 3 and 4, whose progressive 18 to 20 degree banking causes a real challenge for keeping the power down on the speedway. In the infield, though, it gets real tricky. The transition from the front stretch down into the conglomerate of the first 5 turns here is treacherous, to say the least. If you've survived the attrition through there, you're faced with 2 long straightaways connected by unique turns 6 and 7. After the hairpin to place you back on the speedway, the need for power remains key. All in all, we're going to see a much different version of Homestead-Miami Speedway tonight. Instead of the 1.5 mile 4-turn oval, we're going to see the GTE-powered showcase on the 2.3 mile, 3.7 kilometer, 11-turn GP course. And to get a better idea of what that looks like, allow me to send you down to just about as far south as you can get in mainland Florida to the GSRC lap guide.
It's very, very easy. From there, you've got a series of rather slow corners that will probably be mostly single file. Ideally, you want to make sure you can set up the car for 4, where it's got a fair bit of banking and a long run on the throttle afterwards. If someone really screws up the exit, you might see a pass attempt into 6, but it's just not quite that long of a straight. Like most typical hairpins, you want to square off the exit, but make sure to really let it track out. The access road to the left can open up the little kink of 7 a fair bit. I wouldn't recommend trying to go through there too wide either, as it's a bit marginal. Now we approach what I consider one of the tougher corners on the track, turn 8. There's not really anything special about this hairpin. It's just that you'll have a fair bit of speed approaching it, making it hard to nail your brake marker. And since you're coming back onto the oval portion, overshooting the corner will hurt you terribly. You won't be lifting until turn 1 again, so any speed you lose on your way around here will really hurt. Drivers will be trying hard to keep up with the slipstream of the car ahead to help them make passes. But if you've kept it all together, you've now hopefully finished a lap around Homestead. You see a very quick lap around Homestead-Miami's road course, one of their road courses. The oval portion really makes it a short lap because you're flying so fast. So, as always, today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. The Simulation MotorSports Association is a sim racing platform created by experienced racers. Established in 2015 and supported by the International Sim Racing Federation, the association is bringing together organizations and communities to further promote sim racing globally. Concentrating on all sims worldwide, they offer a focused opportunity for sim racers to compete with each other. They also provide consultancy services to this growing eSports world. SimMSA offers solutions for racing simulator requirements and custom-built simulator parts, as well as complete customization and upgrading of existing simulators. You can find them at SIMMSA.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Frazier Deeter. Frazier Deeter is a nationally recognized PCAOB registered CPA and advisory firm headquartered in Atlanta with thousands of clients globally. It provides a wide range of services including tax, audit, advisory, internal controls, and transaction support to achieve each client's unique financial goals. With offices in Alpharetta, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Nashville, and Tampa, Frazier Deeter has consistently been named a best of the best CPA firm by Inside Public Accounting and is ranked among the top 60 largest CPA firms in the United States. You can find them at FrazierDeeter.com. Thanks to both those companies for sponsoring this season of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. But this Sports Car Series is on its 3rd round, and, well, Nick, we've got an inkling of who is going to be leading just based on the results from the first 2.
Yeah, we definitely do. We can take a look at the points, the driver points, that is, and, well, you probably have guessed it right at the top of that. It is Karl Modoff. He has a 15-point lead after 2 wins already in the season. Already a 15-point lead over Jorge Flores, who moves into 2nd. Then we have a tie for 3rd between Andres Espinosa and Sean McBeth. And McBeth showed great speed last week. He's already doing well in pre-race. This might be his night to become king after all. In 5th place is Christian Eisler, 3 points behind them. We do also have the team standings, though, that we can take a look at, because they are just as important for a lot of these drivers, and the competition no different. CRT up at the top. Modoff and Clark lead the way with 108 points. SRT Team North, followed by their West and East team are behind them, but very tight. You see 4 and 5 points back. The Speedworks Racing Team East in 4th, 14 points back. Only a 3-point lead, though, over Perez and Eisler for Team Bushfink Racing. So competition all over the board.
This is why I can trust Nick. He always does his homework. Going to the race details, let's take a look at what we've got for tonight. As we mentioned, round 3 out of 10. There you see the 4 makes that you can drive in this series. Now, the race distance for this one going to be 45 minutes, which is their sprint format. They can expect 1 pit stop. I'm kind of curious how the extended period on the power on the oval portion will affect the fuel strategy. They do have open setups on the car. It makes you wonder also whether or not people will be trimming out the wing a whole lot, and if that will affect how they race in that infield portion. There's an incident cap of 24. If they go over 24 incidents out on the track, they will be disqualified immediately and removed from the racing surface. They also have no spare car, as always, that will keep them safe if they get any sort of damage. They're going to have to come in and get that fixed if they find themselves with bent up carbon fiber. Now, as always, you've been watching this on the iRacing eSports Network. If you'd like to see more of IESN in your YouTube feed, you should subscribe. All you got to do is click that big red button that says subscribe on their YouTube page. I can get all of this PRL GTE action along with the official World Championship Series here on IESN. So we're watching them work their way through qualifying. And while Karl Modoff is topping things, and it's only by a quarter of a tenth of a second at the moment. And look at this, a familiar name of old, since before you joined in, Nick, Christian Eisler, back up at the front.
Yeah, and Eisler's one to definitely keep an eye out. This is a track that was used on iRacing quite a while ago. That's about when Eisler was really fast in this series. This might be one that he is more familiar with than other drivers. So after a 4th place finish and a 6th place finish, he might be showing some speed here tonight, like he already is in practice or in qualifying. That is.
Macbeth also looking pretty good, sitting on the outside of the 2nd row. That was LeBlanc we saw just cross the line, who sits in 23rd. But Macbeth in 4th, backing up the pace that he showed last round after he took his 2nd place. Go to Broaden now, who currently sits in 13th. He's coming around to the line. His fastest qualifying time is a 12 flat. Make that a 11.9. Jumps him up 1 position. Some lightning fast pace here in qualifying. Certainly about 3 seconds faster than what I was running during that lap. Pacer's coming back out to try and improve, see if he can overtake Karl Modoff. Now, we saw that little pit exit there, and though it doesn't dump you into the racing line, I am a little bit worried to see how that's going to play out with some drivers if they find themselves re-entering in traffic, because, boy, that first corner breaking into the 2nd, it is scary.
Yeah, it's really scary. There's 3 degrees of banking up on the straightaways here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. So even that slight 3-degree banking transition onto the complete flat infield already has the car unsettled, and you're trying to brake while at an angle, slowing the car down. If you are too wide through there and there's a car coming out of pit road, good luck with that, because that is a scary situation going down into there.
You see Modoff working his way around. I think he is on a flyer. Now into the infield, up towards turn 6. Actually giving a tow to his teammate, Corey Clark, who's got himself up to P8. Clark did not have the best of races last round. Actually, I believe he turned another car at one point when they came together. Of course, not intentionally, but it was an accident I'm sure he wouldn't have liked to have been involved with. Any sort of contact tends to not bode well for your race. He stays in the slipstream of Karl Modoff, seeing if he can get a little bit higher than that 1:11.7 that he's got on the board. Round NASCAR 3 and 4. It's holding on nicely to the back of Modoff towards the line. What does he got underneath him? Not enough. Meanwhile, Flores finds himself up there. He's in 7th in a 9.29. He's not on a hot lap. This is probably going to be a little bit of a quicker one as he comes around and brakes for turn 2. Down in 17th, Revito used a little help from James LeBlanc. Those two are not teammates, though.
Definitely got a big run there.
Yes, he did. And was that his best? Yes, it was. Yeah. A 1:11.9. That puts him into 15th. Running out of time, though. We're under a minute left. Drivers who cross the line now essentially on their final lap.
And he's getting help from Valenzuela in front of him.
Fastest is a 1:11.4. He sits in 3rd place. That was a 1:12.1. That's not going to shuffle him upwards onto the front row, unfortunately. But he'll get one more try. No, he won't. That will end the qualifying for Federico Montini.
I'm seeing a lot of people have problems down there in the first couple of turns. Not necessarily the turn 1, but turn 2. Really under that heavy braking like we were just talking about. Really treacherous getting down in there. So I'd be very careful on the first couple of laps here on cold tires going down in there.
Galaz crosses was a 1:12.3. That gets him into 22nd, but the checkered flag comes out. James LeBlanc going to be the first one across. He does not improve, stays where he is. Maxi Sorella behind him also does not improve. Where are some of our fast drivers? I see Kita coming around, but he's going to abandon the lap. And here's an important thing. Look at this. Even though they are running the road course, you do have to take that NASCAR pit entry there, Nick.
Yeah, very similar to the pit exit at a track like Indianapolis, where it doesn't, I mean, you really are way down on, it seems like an access road, essentially is what it is, way outside of the track and onto the flat. Definitely causes some problems if you're trying to come, especially we're going to see green flag pit stops, trying to keep the car as fast as possible down there, but also trying to keep it on that little strip of pavement.
It's certainly caused its fair share of frustration over the years. Rodrigo Munoz, I think possibly the last one across the line. Galaz actually might be behind him. Munoz doesn't jump up in position. Galaz, whose last lap was his fastest, doesn't improve this next time by. And that ends our qualifying. So let's go through our starting order. On the pole, it's going to be Karl Modoff. He's got 2 wins so far this season. He's on 10 wins in a row. Christian Eisler is going to try to stop that streak. He starts from 2nd place. And then Federico Montini, after a couple of podiums last season, has yet to get one this season. Let's see if he can keep himself within it from the grid. Sean Macbeth was on the podium last race at Watkins Glen. He starts from 4th today. Leif Peterson, continuing to show incredible speed, will be P5 with Tyler DeZube. Unfortunately, a couple of errors in the inner loop for him set a damper on his race at Watkins Glen. He starts from 6th. Jorge Flores will be P7, and Andre Espinoza will start 8th. Corey Clark will be P9 when the green drops, and Jean-Marc Tremblay P10.
Row number 6 is going to be the 19 of Pablo Valenzuela Uribe and the 88 of Justin Rame. Row number 7 is going to be made up of 2 cars, with the number 7, the 07 of Josh Daniels, and Fernando Borda in the 7. Behind them, 15th is going to go to the number 15 of Pete Mabroten, rounding that field out. Dan Revito going to be 16th alongside of him, Cristobal Valenzuela and Kenneth Rodriguez, the 969 car, in 18th. 19th and 20th will go to Brett Thurman and Manuel Paredes.
Jerome Berton will be 21st with Hugo Galaz in his last 2 laps, managing to jump up to 22nd. Tyler Gilmet will be 23rd. Then Takeshi Kita starts 24th, followed by Maxi Sorella in P25, James LeBlanc 26th, and then Lucio Vargas 27th. Outside of that row will be Rodrigo Munoz starting 28th. Joey Trungale will be 29th and David Slee 30th. Last few cars in the field include Mike Richter, who is the last one to put in a lap time, and 31st. Mike Cray 32nd, Danny Duchesne 33rd, Gary Schilling 34th, and Chris Sweat 24th. Many of these drivers at the back had horrible races last time. Schilling, definitely one of them, with one of the most spectacular wrecks we've seen so far here in the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. You can see the cars now gridded up, waiting to go. We'll have a full pace lap around Homestead-Miami Speedway, and we'll go racing for 45 minutes today. Nick, this is going to be a bit of a new experience. I believe we've done Daytona before here with these cars, so it's not the first time we've done a Roval, but this one's a little bit unique compared to that one.
Yeah, it definitely is. Definitely has a different feel to it. Just an observation I made looking at the front couple of cars. No BMWs anywhere near the front. In fact, the first BMW, I think, is Fernando Borda back in 14th. Now, these drivers did have 3 weeks, this being their third and final week, to choose whatever car they're going to run full-time for the season, so might be a couple of guys testing that. But last week, the talk of the town seemed to be that the BMWs were going to be very strong here, but looks like there's even a Ford in front of the first BMW on the grid.
Yeah, certainly is very far back. There's one Ford in the field. I believe that is Uribe that I see driving that car. But it is definitely surprising to me as well, with all they played up, that the BMWs were going to be the cars to beat. Looks to me like the Porsches once again proving themselves to be very powerful, especially when through these long straights where they've got a lot of oomph and grunt in that car. Around the second hairpin of the course, through turn 7 up to 8, both of these potential places where you could attempt to pass. The real question, I think, Nick, is do you want to even try a pass into 8, considering you've got the oval portion after it? Are people going to be just slipstreaming right by?
Well, if you don't get the pass done into 8, you can slipstream. Hopefully you get that done on the speedway, though, because like we saw in practice and even qualifying, the first couple of turns there coming down into the infield are not a pretty place, I don't think, tonight. So hopefully they're able to get that done on the speedway part.
Absolutely. Now, and you and I were talking a little bit about traffic, too. We've got 35 cars out here, and a minute and some change for lap times. I mean, is this going to be a headache? The oval portion obviously gives them a chance to try and get out of the way of people.
Yeah, and even on the infield, we do have those long straightaways where that will definitely help the drivers. That being said, though, I mean, they are going to run out of room eventually. There are lots of narrow parts to that infield section of the Roval. So definitely going to be a little bit of something to keep in mind. We'll see how much of a factor that becomes with 35 cars on track.
All right, Carl Modoff is going to lead the way once that Porsche pace car peels in to the pit lane. So he waits quite a while before finally ducking in. Doesn't have to take that NASCAR pit entry. Now the pace car is in. Modoff wastes no time. He gets on the throttle. Green flag is out here for round 3 in the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. Already looking for second place. Montini to the inside of Eisler, but he's sooner on the brakes. He slots back in single file. Bunch of cars too wide down into turn 2. Everybody having to tiptoe.
Scanning back through the field, it looks really clean through the first couple of turns. And up front, like you said, Modoff pulling away. Eisler and Montini, they all go single file behind him.
Yeah, I saw 2 cars bang doors, but it was well towards the back, and it was very minor. Both of them continued. So, Modoff leads Eisler, leads Montini, leads Macbeth, leads Dzube are your top 5. They streamed their way towards turn 8. We're going to come back onto the oval for the first time.
Watch Christian Eisler, see if he can get any kind of big run. He's in a Ferrari, Modoff is in the Porsche, so the slipstream is going to be a little less than he'd like, but let's see if he can get any kind of tow here on the speedway.
He is within about half a second when they came on, and he's starting to reel him in already before they get to NASCAR 3. We must have had an incident. I see that David Slee took a tow. We'll come back to that in a moment. But Eisler, with a huge head of steam, he looks down to the inside towards turn 1, but not brave enough to force the issue. He's given room by Modoff, even though he doesn't get the spot.
He backed out of it, but that is a good test there for Eisler because he knows if he can just stay in touch with Modoff through the infield, he's going to be able to keep in touch with him on the speedway as well.
So we don't need to go back to David Slee, unfortunately, single car incident where he lost grip coming out of 7 and found himself in the concrete wall to the inside afterwards. So we continue to watch number 727 give chase on Modoff. They are stretching away from Macbeth, who now finds himself in 30, somewhere past Montini that we missed.
They are indeed, and it looks like Montini already struggling even more, falling back. Tyler DeZube behind him and Leif Peterson creating a little bit of a train behind him right now. Wouldn't be surprised if DeZube is able to get by him here.
That was the slipstream that allowed Macbeth by Montini. Ooh, look how close he is up under that rear spoiler now. But I think we need to go to the lead again because it's an even better run this time for Christian Eisler. Pass for the lead as the number 727 sneaks by Carl Modoff, and that action has now meant that Macbeth has gained up on them.
Yeah, Modoff going at the outside and giving a little bit of a checkup there to let Eisler by. That really did, like you said, let Macbeth get to the bumper of Modoff. Let's see if Macbeth can get any kind of run on Modoff here on the speedway this time around.
Too far back for pass into turn 6. Got a nice little fight behind them for P6. This is Leif Peterson that I'm looking at, with Andre Espinoza trailing him right in the tire tracks. Just a quarter of a second between these two. Coming up to turn 8 now, braking hard. You can see how close Espinoza gets, and there's a car spinning behind them. That is Pablo Uribe, and he's going to get into the side of Pete Mobrotten. Both of them are able to continue. Hopefully they didn't get too much damage out of that.
Uribe just heavy under braking there, it looked like, coming into that turn, that hairpin to put you back on the straightaway.
Just outbraked himself. Everybody did a good job of staying out of his way, but it was when he came back around and Pete tried to slip underneath. Let's watch it one more time. This one from above. Wow, that car snapped so fast. He hadn't even started to turn in. It just went. So what does that do? Well, Pete manages to stay ahead of Uribe. He's up to a top 10. Ooh, just behind them, that side-by-side action you see, that's Tremblay being overtaken by Daniels. And now his teammate Revito took a little bit of a peek. Doesn't get a good run. That actually puts him vulnerable to Borda, who now ducks to the inside into turn 8. He's covered off by Revito, who almost gets into his teammates. They all somehow come out the other side.
Big traffic jam through there. That might be the narrowest part of the whole track, and it's one of the most important because it does put you back on the straightaway. Momentum is key through there.
Ooh, we got a battle for 7th. This is Flores and Peterson. Peterson's got to run down the front stretch. Oh, but he runs out of straightaway. He's going to back out of it. Behind them, you can see that's Corey Clark. Oh, and he's going to get an opportunity because a little lot wide off the corner. Leif Peterson can't cover it off. The track is going to switch back into 4 in his favor. He could have maybe avoided losing a position here just by the fact of the nature of this track. So the number 913 stays in 8th, but he's certainly under threat. And Macbeth had a little bit of action with Modoff. We've got a replay here.
Yeah, this was down through turns 1 and 2, it looks like.
Into 3, you're going to see.
Macbeth, wow, dove it deep and came up into Modoff, actually. Almost got DeZube in that as well.
tell you what, Dzube, actually, didn't Dzube start all the way back in 6th, it looks like? So 2 positions up, and looking at a potential podium the way things are going. As we come back live, let's stay on this battle, but just an update as well. Ahead of Modoff, Christian Eisler is stretched away 2 seconds over the number 48.
These Ferraris are definitely looking strong early on. Eisler stretched away at the right there, and Dzube, like you just said, came all the way up from 6th.
Oh, we've had an accident. This is Kenny Rodriguez. He's fallen well down the order out of turn 2. Did he have some help? Oh, he did, but he started spinning before that help came.
Jean-Marc Tremblay behind him. One of his fellow SRT teammates that got into him, it looks like. But like you said, started spinning right already in front of him, so not much that Tremblay could have done there.
Yeah, it sounds like that was Tremblay, like you were saying. Yep, indeed it was. I mean, you're going so fast through that corner, even though you're braking from high speed. I don't know how he could have gotten out of his way unless he just dove off into the grass, and at that point he's also losing position. Oh, and Uribe is going into the pits right now. Watching this from onboard Tremblay real quick.
I wonder if he picked up damage that last time through the infield somewhere. I don't see anything.
It could be maybe a meatball flag.
Oh,
you have 3 laps to serve that. That would be a real shame if the number 19 was able to drive fine and couldn't handle it. Meanwhile, as we go to P6, I can report we don't need to go to it. James LeBlanc had a little bit of an accident with another driver in turn 2. But this is Federico Montini, who continues to fall a little bit backwards. Jorge Flores kind of going with him, although Flores is where he started in 7th. Thought we saw Flores higher than this earlier. They've got Lee Peterson and Corey Clark watching very closely to see if this battle erupts, because they are not far back and could easily take advantage. Through the oval portion once more. Nobody really seems to have much of an advantage between them.
Looks like up in 2nd, Sean Macbeth has taken over 2nd place over Modoff.
He has indeed. Did this happen on the oval? No, it did not. It happened a while ago, actually. So we missed this. It did happen on the oval, but it was almost like 2 laps ago, it looks like. We all were distracted by the other action happening elsewhere. And Sean Macbeth, this is an incredible entry to the series. The number 252, looking at another podium. Depending on the pace that he's got now that he's by Modoff, maybe he could run down Eisler and look at a victory here. But this looks like the first time we've seen Modoff at a disadvantage to the rest of the field.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like Modoff has too much damage at all from that incident, so it can't be that. Even, I mean, Macbeth's car has significant rear wing damage that doesn't seem to be affecting him too badly, so.
Well, Modoff's got a little bit of a run. He's in the slipstream, but he's lifting. That's a big lift. Maybe Modoff is playing the long game. Could see some fuel shenanigans. Dzube poised well to take advantage of that as well, as he sits in 4th behind both of these Porsches. Getting close to that pit window opening in about 4 or 5 more minutes.
This is probably a track that's going to demand fuel mileage to be a little bit more important than some other ones.
Jump back to P6. Montini, Flores still close together, still trailing the likes of Peterson and Clark. Come up to turn 8. All of them trying to tuck it in, almost all of them missing the apex. But as they power their way onto the oval, Flores got himself a nice little run. He is tucked right underneath the rear wing of Montini. This could be his best opportunity yet.
Both go down to hug that white line. Not quite a defensive line on purpose, just kind of the racing line through there, but Montini actually, or Flores, sorry, going to go to the outside there. Try to arc this in better. Oh, he's still out there, though.
Whoa, and a big slide from Montini. Somehow he catches the car. That opens the door. Flores trying to sneak through. Too wide behind them as well. Corey Clark and Leif Peterson. No one willing to give way between any of these four, but finally Flores gets ahead. Oh! This is Clark getting turned, and almost a complete reverse of what happened at Watkins Glen. He was the one doing the turning there. This time he finds himself into the concrete.
That was off the nose of Leif Peterson in the 913.
This was fantastic battling up till then. Very respectful.
Such close racing. It's hard to put the blame on either one of them for that one.
Yeah, and I think the racing line does take you back to the left side. I think it's understandable that Leif expected Clark to drift back over. Just didn't know he was going to be there. So third place is, changing hands right now. This is Modoff and Espinoza. They've lost touch with Sean Macbeth, who streaked away. Modoff now has Dzube to the inside. He's trying to get around him. Dzube can't hold him back. And Carl Modoff gets back up to third. Oh, we've had a big incident. Valenzuela involved, Brett Thurman involved, Justin Rame. This is down towards 20th and below. And it was started with Justin Rame.
Just got squirrely going into turn one, or turn two, it looks like. Once again, the transition into the flat, trying to get the car woed up, and very interesting behind him. Valenzuela, I think, tried to avoid him by going off the track, and I think Thurman followed him.
Yeah, well, they did a great job avoiding. It was just a really awkward situation. Look at that.
Yeah, Thurman actually avoided him completely.
Yeah, they caught him at the very wrong time, but it cost them all multiple positions as they had to take to the gravel and grass. Watch from Thurman's view.
Got some air there.
Woo. So as we come back live, well, that puts Justin Rame down to 21st. Thurman is in 18th, and Cristobal Valenzuela to 17th. Let's jump back up to that battle for third place that we were watching before. Modoff has pulled a tidy gap over Dzube. It's about half a second between them. Dzube still dealing with Espinoza, which, by the way, Espinoza has come up from 8th on the grid to now sitting in 5th. And he's going to get a good slipstream behind that orange and white Ferrari.
Espinoza and Dzube are having good starts. Dzube up 2 spots from the start. Espinoza up 3, like you mentioned.
He's going to cover him off. No, he's not. Espinoza takes the inside. He's got a nose in. Dzube thinks he'll just let him go for today. And that moves Andre now up to 4th. So the battle for 6th place, with Flores being chased by Montini, being chased by Peterson, being chased by Broaden. Train of cars that both can't seem to get away from one another, but also can't seem to pass each other.
Yeah, they just can't quite seem to find enough slipstream on the speedway to make the pass done.
I'm starting to think maybe this is difference in setup. Wondering if there's certain cars that aren't trimmed out enough.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, you're gonna want low downforce here on the straightaway, but we've seen some major problems in the first 3 or 4 turns where you don't want low downforce.
We had another problem for Brett Thurman. This one definitely not his fault. It was Valenzuela and Galaz that got into each other in front of him. And unfortunately, he actually took a lot of damage. This might be worth a replay.
Oh.
I think you saw what I just saw.
Yeah, heavy, pretty significant contact there for Thurman.
See the number 69 car you're going to see come up behind the battle. Oh, well, I did not see this part, actually. Or is this... Oh, no, that was the old one that we were watching. This one was more recent. Let's see, I think we've got it now. You're going to see Galaz and Valenzuela. Oh, looks like we unfortunately don't have the replay ready. But yeah, just Galaz and Valenzuela got into each other. Poor Thurman actually went into the air when he clipped the wheel wrong. And I suspect he got some suspension damage out of that one. Going back to that third place battle. Modov still ahead of Espinoza. Dzube has not been able to retake him.
You saw right there through turn 4 those cars go through. That's basically, with the exception of getting up onto the banking, the only elevation change that this track has. A little bit of a dip down there in turn 4 to get a big run.
And I think Galaz might have been the other driver that was hit with that incident with Thurman, because he's now come into the pits. We'll see if he takes any repairs as we stay on this battle. Oh, as we switch over, sorry. Oh, doesn't look like he took any repairs. He's in and out. This is that battle for third. Modov ahead of Espinoza, starting to drop Dzube now. But Andre in the number 87 Ferrari with a huge head of steam. The Porsche with no answer, but he's keeping the low line and hogging it. That's interrupted the momentum of Andre slightly. Now he comes up beside him, brakes a little bit early, and lets Modov keep third for now.
Modov up on the curbing a little bit down in turn 1. Doesn't seem to hurt him too badly, but Espinoza trying to get as much of a momentum run through there.
Right on board with Espinoza. Watching the rear wing of Modov ahead of him. He's probably very aware of how many wins in a row Carl has taken at this point. It'd be a big ego boost for the number 87 to be able to overtake one of the most dominant drivers we've seen in PRL history so far. Looks to get himself a good run. Back onto the oval, you could see Dzube still not able to regain that ground. Stays roughly 8 to 9 tenths of a second behind this fight for the last spot on the podium. Andre gets another run. Can he get his nose inside? That's the question.
This is a big run, but he goes to the outside once again. Still a defensive line down here for Modov. They were so close to each other.
Oh!
There's still tight head contact. Espinoza spinning into the gravel in turn 2.
And I almost, let's see, if we could get a replay of that one. Was Espinoza all the way over? He was drifting over slightly, but also Carl Modov was headed on a trajectory that I think even if he was all the way over, that he probably would have got into him.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So that puts Espinoza P9, probably with a little bit of damage. Modov now with more damage, we expect. You can see Espinoza just behind 3 cars. That's Flores, Broaden, and Montini. This is hopefully going to be an opportunity to get back up. His Speedworks teammate not going to hold him up too hard. Flores just ducks to the high side, and Espinoza gets through.
Right in front of them. There is also a battle between Broaden and Montini.
Yep, this is for 6th position. So he could get Espinosa could climb his way back up to 6. After that, it's going to take a little bit more hard work because Leif Peterson and Tyler DeZube both have a decent gap in front of this group. But it looks like Espinosa's making short work of this because not only did he get by Flores, he's left him behind and is very close behind Broaden. Riding on board, looking ahead at Pete. Oh, he's going to get a handy little slipstream here. That's one of our BMWs. This will give us a good idea of how they're performing out there.
Yeah, last week in the post-race at Watkins Glen, almost everyone was saying how dominant the BMWs were expected to be this week with that mid-engine package, and we saw Espinosa dive to the bottom there and wasn't quite able to even get up side by side with him. Oh, tight racing through there.
Yeah, Pete, both Pete and Andre went wide, coming through turn 2. Espinosa actually having to catch the car on the grass. Stay where they are. Pete Broaden stays 7th. Andre Espinosa stays 8th. And it's you bring up the expected advantage with the BMW. I noticed specifically as I was reviewing last week that Christian Eisler was in a BMW at Watkins Glen. Guess what he's in now? Ferrari. And they're allowed to change up to this race. Could this have been a clever strategy move by the 727?
There's definitely been some testing and practices outside of Tuesday nights for these teams, I think.
Yeah, I think he probably did a little bit of research because whatever happened between last week and this week, Eisler's quiet race at Watkins Glen
what is that?
interrupted by a huge incident on screen. That was Galaz and David Slee, both of whom have seen action. So Slee was the first one. We're gonna watch Galaz first, it sounds like. Slee.
Yeah, it looks like Slee was already spinning through there, hit the curbs.
All right, here we go.
Interesting.
Just lost the car under braking. Tried to lock him up and then tried to get out of the way. Here you see Galaz come along and, whoa, actually Galaz lost it on his own.
Yeah.
Stay right side up. Oh, gosh.
Oh, and David Slee, if you keep going on that, he had a huge incident with Leif Peterson.
Oh, no. Oh. He went right back to the racing line.
Leif Peterson was up in 5th when that happened, too.
That car just got absolutely ransacked. Oh, and he saw it at the last second. You could see him make a dive to the grass. So as we come back live, where does that put Leif? Amazingly, he's still in 9th. He must have hit him just right.
Yeah, he's definitely got damage, but didn't lose nearly as much track position like we were expecting.
So how does this shuffle around our top 10? Doesn't do much to the top 5. It's still Eisler, Macbeth, Modoff, DeZube, and Montini there. But Broaden now finds himself 6th, Espinosa 7th, Flores 8th, and Peterson 9th, as we reported before. Through Vito rounds out your top 10. Oh, I think DeZube is about to get a position, though. DeZube going for 3rd place right now. He gets to the inside, down into the first corner, and Carl Modoff does not have an answer. He has to give away a podium. Riding on board, looking back at our 10 race in a row winner, Carl Modoff. some scheduled stops here. Jerome Bertone now in. This might actually be our very first scheduled one. All the other drivers I see who have stopped have definitely had some problems. He's in and out. Looking at fifth once again. We return to the oval. That's Montini at the front of that three-car train. Broaden sandwiched in the middle. Espinoza in seventh.
Just running in a line right now. A little bit of a gap in between them, though. Can't quite get enough slipstream here on the front stretch.
And quickly, you see, that's one of those BMWs that's struggling to try and use that slipstream. Broaden, a little wide through two, but keeps it together. Espinoza can't do anything with him. As that's been happening, Josh Daniels in the 07 enters the pit lane. Down towards turn 6. Very, very close together between these three. Frustratingly, nobody really seems able to do much with it. Less than 18 minutes left to go on the clock. Anybody get the power down good enough to find themselves an advantage? Espinoza looking a little bit closer to Pete this time. Number 15, lollygagging off of the hairpin.
Espinoza's going to go into the pits, it looks like.
He is indeed. There's Espinoza hitting the line, getting it down to the pit speed limiter. Right now, Josh Daniels is your highest pitter. He sits in 21st. Espinoza should come out easily ahead of him.
Yeah, I'm guessing the next 2 or 3 laps for most of these drivers is when they're going to want to take their stop.
Worth noting, it's relatively late in the day, too. You can see the sun getting very low. Granted, they've only got 16 more minutes, so I don't think we'll really see the lights turn on. Christian Eisler rifling off another lap. His gap back to Macbeth, 5.5 seconds. He's going to stay out, though. Espinoza has returned, and P18. Bad news for him. He's got a little bit of traffic in front of him. Lucio Vargas is the first, then he's got Corey Clark.
Hopefully he can catch those drivers on the straightaway, but that's a pretty big gap he's got in front of him to Vargas. So I don't know. He might catch him right when they're going into turn 1.
A little 2 wheels into the dirt for Vargas will certainly help Andre out. Not enough, like you said. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to get the slipstream. Possibly we'll have to hope for these drivers to come and pit soon, just so that they stay out of his way. This has been a very, very late pit strategy for a lot of drivers.
Yeah, the top 17 drivers still out on the track right now. And it seems like every race we have here in the PRL GTE Sports Car Series, these drivers try to push that fuel limit more and more and more.
And so few seem willing anymore to make an alternate strategy. We ride with Pete Broaden, who also stays out dealing with traffic. I think Espinoza is going to lose out in some of these pit stop games because he's very much being held up in the infield by Vargas. In the meantime, both Macbeth and our leader Eisler have come in for their pit stops.
Didn't look like Macbeth was able to make up much ground on Eisler on that access road to get on pit road.
Eisler was clean into his stall, clean out. Are they going to come out in traffic? That's the question. Looks like a clear bit of road. Oh, but Macbeth just behind Cristobal Valenzuela, who's yet to pit and also goes off. He's going to try and get by him as quickly as he can so he can keep touch with our leader. And I think he's got it. Great heads up by Macbeth.
That definitely did hurt him still. Karl Modhoff's on the backstretch now, seeing if he peeks in. Doesn't look like he's going to. Actually, he will.
And I think Macbeth did gain on Eisler, though. It was 5-6 seconds between them. Yeah. It's now 2.5. So either a very fast stop, and unfortunately, I'm not getting the numbers for Macbeth's stop. It looks like he was quicker down the lane overall. 34.7 for Macbeth versus 34.8 for Eisler. Modhoff is in. Dzube is in. Mo Broughton.
And Dzube really closed the gap he had on Modhoff as well. This is going to cycle Federico Montini out into the lead for the time being.
And jumps Eisler up to 5th, at least for now. We're still waiting for Montini, Revito, Borda, Guillemette, Valenzuela, and Sorella. Takeshi Kita taking his stop too. Okay, so Eisler coming out and around towards turn 8. Macbeth was the closest car that he was fighting, and Macbeth is holding station. That gap has not grown. It is still about 2.5 seconds between them.
Looks like just about everyone else coming to the pits here. Montini and Revito. Borda as well. And Munoz. Ooh. No, not Guillemette.
Borda almost... Let me see if he sped. It was awful close. Oh, he got it down in time. Let's watch on board, because this was a very hot entry, though.
He got sideways for sure.
Watch the hands, especially with how close he was to that pit wall. You don't want to embarrass yourself by ruining the car just as you come in. Almost ran into the guy in front of him. So he's returned. Borda is now out in 9th, just ahead of Lee Peterson, just ahead of Jean-Marc. Oh no, actually Jean-Marc's a ways behind them. It must be a lapped car. It's Brett Thurman at the tail of the train.
And it looks like Tyler Dzube got around Karl Modhoff for what's going to become 3rd.
Remember how long he was hanging around at the back of that train of cars? Yeah, I think he played some games.
Because he came out behind Modhoff out of the pits, so somewhere recently he had to have overtaken him, I believe.
All right, so Tyler Dzube looking to get himself what I think might be his first podium of this series. And Modhoff, for the first time in I don't know how many races, because other than his 10 wins in a row, I'm not sure how many times he was on the podium before that. He had a solid season the year before his dominance. We're on board with the number 48.
Yeah, definitely not having his night, which, like you said, is pretty amazing considering the fact that he's running 4th in this series.
Well, give some hope for other drivers. That's at least good news for them. Now, we've got a second stop for Dan Revito. I thought I saw him come in a second time. Not sure if he sped or... Yeah, 15 seconds in his stall. I think that was a speeding penalty for the number 46. Well, that is incredibly unfortunate because it drops him all the way down to P23.
Yeah, and he was in 14th, it looks like, as well, so big drop for him.
Very tragic and terrible for, unfortunately, that driver. As we go to Jerome Bertone. And a nice little battle for P14. That's Justin Rame, who's recovered, I have to say. He had a lot of action last race. He's got some more action this race. Let's see if he can make it good action, because he's closing in on the back of the BMW. Looking to the high side, the dark blue Porsche. Seeing if he can outbrake the Canadian. Oh, he can, but the Canadian can't hold on to it. Is he going to slide into him? Yes, he is. Hard contact between the two.
Rame on the outside and Bertoom down low like you just saw. Bertoom getting back on track, sliding into the other Canadian, unfortunately.
Thought, or at least hoped, he would be able to avoid him. Justin manages to keep going. He does get the position. He's in 14th. I just don't know how much damage those two accrued with that. Oof. Going up to 5th, Carl Modoff. Still, Federico Montini, rather, being chased by Espinoza.
Oh, Montini got really loose there in turn 4.
And for Espinoza, the one that got run into turn 2 by Modoff. Found himself off track. He's recovering now, looking for a pass down into turn 6. But the car just doesn't have the grunt on the inside line. Federico Montini finishing him off for now. But this is looking like it'll be a tough ask for the number 5 car to retain this top 5 spot.
Yeah, Espinoza putting all kinds of pressure right now on Montini.
Right on board with the Ferrari. Looking up ahead at the Porsche of Federico Montini. Interesting to note, I don't believe we have the other Montini here today. Good run down the front stretch. He's pulling him in, but they're going to run out of straightaway. They break for 1 and 2. Going to have to set him up for later. He certainly seemed to be strong in this portion, because this was where he attacked last time, coming out of here up towards turn 6, Nick. I wonder if we'll see this again.
Yeah, he has a big run there. Kind of washed out a little bit. Might be able to get some slipstream, though.
Not quite close enough into 6. Keeping half an eye on this and half an eye on the battle for 3rd, but we'll give a shout if that gets any closer. Right now, this one a little bit more intense. Espinoza looking very good on the brakes. Very, very good on the brakes. He gained a number of tenths, and he is much closer this time. I think a pass is on the cards once they come up to the first corner. He's forced to go the high side. Up onto the banking. Got to carry that speed. Tries to squeeze him down a little bit. He wants to go over, but there's a car there. Andre Espinoza, can he get it wound up in time? He's bobbling around. He gets a little tip, and he's off the course. Federico Montini goes by while Espinoza collects it in the grass.
Espinoza did a great job saving that, and he stayed in touch, really, with Montini. Not too much ground at all is going to be lost there by Espinoza, but he's got to get the car wound up once again. His time is running out, down to 5 minutes for him to catch up again.
This has been a good race and a very quick race. With all the action we've been watching, it's blown by. I almost wonder if we need to jump back up to 3rd, though, because Modoff's been getting very, very close. He lost a tenth or two to Dezube through these last few hairpins. And as we watch this, the race is still being led by Eisler. Macbeth is still in 2nd. They haven't really changed that gap a whole lot. It's roughly 2.5 seconds. Oh, Mo Broughton had more problems. Pete finds himself in the wall, and this one was of his own making. let's take a look at the replay. This was through 7. There you see the very tail end of it.
Yeah, hard on the gas there, it looked like. He was chasing Josh Daniels, but that didn't have too much to do with it.
You'll see it if we switch over to him. It should be, there we go. Looking for broaden. Yep, there he is right behind him. You saw him wash out, and he actually hit the wall pretty hard. Had to back the BMW up and turn it back around. Light him up. Ugh. Fascinating how loose that car was. So Pete now finds himself in P18, unfortunately. And he was, I believe, in the top 10 at the time, potentially. I'm trying to see if I can dig that up, but he certainly lost a lot. Back to 5th. Espinoza still can't do anything with Montini. Trailing behind him. Same thing with Modoff and Dzube. Stuck in a stalemate. And at least in Dzube and Modoff's case, that will decide who's the last step on the podium.
Great rebound for Dzube. I'm sure he's just loving having a nice race this week, because I don't think he's even had a... Yeah, he hasn't even had a top 25 yet this season. Sebring went badly for him. Watkins Glen went badly for him. So to come back here at Homestead with such a unique track and be fighting for a podium, just a fantastic recovery for Tyler.
Well, I think we've discovered what types of tracks Dzube is strong at. And has pulled away. Look at that.
Yeah.
Modoff, 8/10 behind what was down to 2/10 earlier on the previous lap.
Dzube is from the Carolinas region here on iRacing, so he might be a little familiar with Rovals.
This is true. Not sure how he feels about them, but clearly he knows his way around. 5th, still very tight. That's Montini you see in the Porsche. Espinoza driving the green, black, and white Ferrari. Hopefully this will break up soon, or something will happen soon, because, well, Christian Eisler's getting the white flag once he comes around the banking. What a performance. Eisler responds to some of our, I guess you could call them, criticisms over the last season or two, saying he's lost speed, he's been anonymous in races, that he isn't really showing himself to be a threat. Well, today he certainly was a threat. He started this race in 2nd place on the front row, was even fastest in warm-up, and today it's looking like he's going to be the fastest in the race as well. He's increased the gap over Macbeth recently to 3.5 seconds. Ooh, Modoff took a little bit of a look onto Dzube into the infield.
He's definitely being aggressive. He's going to try to get a run here. That's the lap car of Gary Schilling ahead of them with a lot of damage, so hopefully he's out of the way for them.
Keeping an eye on the leader, so I'll give a shout once we hit NASCAR 3 and 4. He's awful close. Modoff could yet have a good opportunity. All he needs is the run off of turn 8, which they're coming up to right here. Is he going to be able to get? We'll find out soon enough. For now, we got to go to Christian Eisler. Out of NASCAR 4. On the front stretch, the streak has been broken, and it's by Christian Eisler to win today at Homestead. Macbeth takes 2nd place. Dzube's ahead, and I don't think Modoff is close enough. The number 21, Redemption, with a podium.
Behind them, the battle for 4th or 5th is going to be Montini at the line, side by side with Espinoza.
Wow. 2 100ths of a second between them at the line. Leif Peterson lacking a little straight line speed ahead of Jean-Marc Tremblay, but he's got enough straightaway And Peterson is going to claim 9th. Let's take a look at Paredes and Sorella. Sorella's the chaser. Paredes trying to hold on to P16. Actually had 24 cars left on the lead lap I'm seeing. So Paredes is going to win that one. Danny Revito, a little bit of a disappointing finish. What could have been much higher, but an extra pit stop to deal with a penalty sent him down just inside the top 20. And with that, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. If you stick around on screen, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. So don't go away. Welcome back to Homestead-Miami. We just watched round 3 of the PRL GTE Sportscar Series. And after 10 straight rounds of Karl Modhoff being our winner, Christian Eisler has broken the spell. The Iceman in the number 727 returns to the top spot in what is frankly quite a while. I believe it was a season and a half ago that he won at Sonoma the last time we saw him up front. Sean Macbeth with his second place in a row, though. He is going to be one to watch this season. Potentially his consistency could eventually get himself a win or a championship. DeZube rounds out our podium. As Nick mentioned earlier in the broadcast, didn't finish higher than 20th before this. He's turned his fortunes around. Karl Modhoff mysteriously did not have the speed in the race today. He took the pole, but wound up off the podium in 4th. Federico Montini was behind him with quite a bit of action, taking 5th, just ahead of Espinoza, racing him to the line. Jorge Flores finishes in 7th, with Fernando Borda coming home 8th, having started in 14th on the grid. And Leif Peterson, unfortunately, who was higher up, found himself in some trouble, and he finishes 9th. Rounding out our top 10, it's Jean-Marc Tremblay.
11th is going to go to Josh Daniels in the 07. He moves up 2 spots from the start. Tyler Gill met with a great race. He went from 23rd on the grid up to the top dozen. He sits there in 12th. Justin Rame, he started 12th and finishes 13th, but despite those numbers, had a great recovery today after an early incident in the 88 car. Jerome Bertum also had an incident with Cristobal Valenzuela behind him in 15th. Manuel Paredes moves up 4 spots, with Maxi Sorella moving up 8. He will finish 17th. Pete Mabroten and Hugo Galaz are going to be behind him 18th and 19th. Danny Revito is going to be in 20th after some early incidents for him as well.
21st goes to Kenneth Rodriguez with Lucio Vargas in 22nd. Then it's Takeshi Kita finishing 23rd. Unusual to not see him climbing up higher. Duchesne definitely climbed, but he didn't put a qualifying time in. Started 33rd, finished 24th, and he was actually the last car on the lead lap. Rodrigo Munoz, the first one to be lapped in P25 with Joey Trungale in 26. Then you have your DNFs. Gary Schilling with another one, sadly, 27th. Brett Thurman, 28th. And Corey Clark, 29th. James LeBlond in 30th. Then you've got Mike Richter in 31st. David Slee in 32nd. Pablo Uribe in the 33rd. And I think Mike Cray and Chris Sweat did not start for this race. We have our winner waiting to talk to us, and it feels like talking to an old friend a little bit, because we've been waiting for someone to come and dispose of the dominance of Karl Modoff, and it turned out to be a driver who's won multiple times in this series. Christian, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Very happy for the race today.
Now, we know that you guys are allowed to switch cars up to this round, and I noticed that you were in the BMW last week, but the Ferrari this week. Is that related to the track choice?
It's related to the BMW because I didn't get used with the car, and with the Ferrari I'm very familiar. I race a lot of seasons with the Ferrari, and I have something to do in the championship with Ferrari instead of BMW.
That makes sense. So you've gotten up here to the front and gotten yourself a win, but you had pretty good finishes, even though you weren't on the podium in the first two rounds, if I remember correctly. What's your thoughts for the remainder of the season? Do you think you're the person that can finally do away with sorry, lost my train of thought, with Modoff here? He's been very, very difficult to beat, and you're the very first person to do so.
Yeah, Carlos is a very tough competitor. He's always fast. He's always consistent. So to beat him, you have to do a perfect race, and today I have a perfect race with almost without mistakes. So if I want to be competitive and fight for the championship, I need a lot of races like today, and it will be difficult, but I will try.
Awesome to hear. That was the Iceman who got on top of the podium for the first time since Sonoma of a season and a half ago. And up next, second place in a row for Sean Macbeth. Nick's going to talk to him.
Yes, here was Sean Macbeth, finishing second place here at Miami, a fifth place at Sebring, and 2 second-place finishes in a row. Looking pretty good to start the season off, Sean.
Yeah. So far, so good. I think that's kind of my goal, is to just pace myself since I'm new this season, and just see how things go. I want to apologize to Carl for that move on lap 3 or 4 or whatever it was. I thought I could make that pass clean, but just locked him up just a touch too much and got into the side of him. So all my fault. Sorry about that, man.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you about that pass, actually. Not the pass necessarily, but we saw you picked up quite a bit, actually, of rear wing damage after that at a track like Homestead with the straightaways and the NASCAR Speedway that you had to deal with. Did that rear wing damage affect you much handling-wise or power-wise on the straightaways?
Not so much handling, but I think top speed, yes. At the end there, it felt like Christian and I were just trading laps back and forth. And I gained a tenth or two on the infield, and then he'd gain it right back on the oval. So I think it hurt me for sure on the oval.
Yeah, you played it off well, being able to finish second still with that much damage. Another question regarding the manufacturers and the cars. Last week, the talk was that the BMWs were going to prevail here. being in a Porsche this week, you were the top finishing Porsche. Did you see a bit of difficulty? It looked like the Ferraris were really good today.
Yeah, the Ferraris were quick for sure. It just took a lot of work on my end to get prepared for this race. We'll say that. And eventually I landed on something that was pretty good. So I was genuinely kind of surprised about my pace. I didn't think I was going to be doing that good because I wasn't having fun here all week. I'm not a big fan of this track now. But yeah, glad it all worked out in the end.
Yeah, for not being a fan of the track, I'd say a second place is pretty good. We go to Monza next week. That's another track that's very dependent on the power of your car and the speed that it has. You looking forward to that one, or do you feel the same way about Monza?
Nah, I like Monza. I'm looking forward to it. Although the Ferrari and the BMW will be hard to beat, but we'll see how it goes. Again, it's probably going to take some work and get together with the team and see what we come up with.
All right. Well, our top Ferrari today was first, but our top BMW was way back in 8th. So it'll be exciting to see what you can do there.
Yeah, well, thanks again, guys. Thanks to the team. Really looking forward to seeing how this whole series plays out.
We are too, and we hope to get to talk to you again. Joe, I believe you are catching up with another driver that landed on the podium tonight.
Absolutely. Tyler Dzube, who I suspect is probably ecstatic. The first 2 rounds didn't really go your way, Tyler, but today you did a phenomenal job out there. You had to work for this podium.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I in the first 2 races, I had a combined 9 self-inflicted spins, and so between the bumpy track of Sebring and fighting with Montini, losing it there in Watkins, and just not being able to get my composure back. I'm very excited with what this track of all tracks has brought me.
Well, and we were wondering that during the broadcast. How do you feel about this Roval? They tend to not endear many drivers to them.
So turn 1 and 2 are pretty exciting. It's not the most fun track, but all the turns are slow turns, which I think is my strength. So whatever track I'm on, I always seem to gain time on slower turns for whatever reason. So that's gave me the advantage here.
So what's going through your mind as well late in the race when you find yourself fighting with Karl Modoff? I'm pretty certain that you're aware of how he's been performing up till now. Does that ever enter your head that you've got a driver who's won 10 straight races in a row, or is just any car is any car to you out there?
So it's funny, earlier in the week, I did run into both Carl and Sean in official races, and I out-qualified both of them. So I knew I could hang, but I just don't have the consistency that they have lap in and lap out. I also had the benefit of watching Carl get dinged around a few times. Sean already mentioned that he bumped into him. Espinoza, who might have had the fastest pace of anybody, had an incident with him. And then I don't know if you guys saw him run into traffic coming out of the pits. So he got bumped at least 3 times. And that's what it took for me to get ahead of him, was him losing the top speed going around the oval.
I think we caught at least 2 of those 3. I'm trying to remember if we got the 3rd one on camera. So a little bit of help, but don't sell yourself too short. 3rd place, like I said, you had to fight for it. You managed to get up there. I hope we see more of you, Tyler.
Thanks. I hope this won't be my last interview. My own.
That was the number 21, Tyler Dzube, who finished on the podium today. He seems very, very pleased. And that's going to close us up today, though. So, of course, we want to thank the sponsors for this season before we take off. First of all, the Simulation Motorsports Association, who can be found at SIMMSA.net, deserve a big thank you for their 2nd season in a row of coming on board. And also, Frazier and Deeter. You can find them at FrazierDeeter.com. Big thanks to them for joining in as well. Thanks goes out to iRacing, who brings us on to IESN for another full season here in the PRL. And thanks go out to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go out to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Nick, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. As Nick mentioned, we're going over to Italy for Monza. That'll be Tuesday, April 9th at 9 p.m. Eastern. That should be a fascinating one as well, with slipstream battles offering us some close fighting. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.